Hello and welcome to The Downsized. My name is Laraine Durham, and this is the channel where we talk about all things related to GLP-1 weight loss. GLP-1 medications are medications like Mounjaro, Zepbound, Ozempic, Wegovy, semaglutide, and tirzepatide. I've lost over 50 pounds on the GLP-1 medication tirzepatide. And in this series, our Downsized Dish series, we talk to real people about their GLP-1 weight loss. Before we get started, I just want to mention that I'm not a doctor, my guest is not a doctor, and this is not medical advice. If you're interested in starting a GLP-1 medication, please start with your doctor or medical professional. Okay, I hope you'll like and subscribe to The Downsized. We put out videos every day to support you in your GLP-1 quest or journey. And today we're really happy to welcome Becky to The Downsized Dish. Welcome, Becky.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Welcome. Becky, tell us about yourself.
Okay, well, I identify first and foremost as a farm girl from southern Wisconsin. I grew up on a dairy farm about 40 miles northwest of Madison, so that was, is, and always will be home. I currently live in southern Michigan. I've been here for about 20 years. I teach at a small college here, and anyway, Michigan has been very good to me. And yeah, I am happily married, and daughter, sister, wife. I call myself a beloved pet mom. My husband calls me a pet enabler. So probably all the above. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, well, awesome. Well, tell us about your weight loss, Becky. How's that been going?
Okay, well, basically, as far as weight goes, I have struggled with weight literally since before kindergarten. Like, it's
Mhm.
something that has been with me my entire life. And, when you grow up, as an overweight child, it's like there's something, like, from the very beginning, you just know that there's something about you that is different.
Mm.
And it gets pointed out to you very regularly that there's always something about you that's different. And so anyway, I can't remember a time in my life where it wasn't a struggle. But, growing up and just having that experience. And, I always knew, like, from a very young age, I was never going to be the cute, pretty little girl. But I knew I had currency because I got a lot of positive attention for different things from the adults in my world. So I knew I was a good student. I knew I had some musical talent. I knew I had, a lot of ambition, and I knew I was a good conversationalist. And so that was really where, I put all of my emphasis. And so, I really feel as if, started coming into myself when I got to college, because that was the first time when I felt like I was recognized for the skills that I had and not just for, being a bigger girl. I really, felt comfortable there. And I think that's really why I chose to, go into higher education as far
Mm.
as my career. But I continually, gained and lost and gained, lost, like the same, truly, probably, 10 to 20 pounds, over and over and over again. Like, I
Mhm.
think a lot of us have, we've all had that experience.
Mhm.
And then when I was in my early 30s, I chose to have gastric bypass surgery. So I had
Mm.
a Roux-en-Y in 2009. And I count that as, like, probably the best decision of my life. My husband likes to think he's the best decision of my life. He's in the top three, but
That's
that
nice of
surgery,
you.
yeah, exactly. But that surgery was definitely the best decision of my life. And I ended up losing a significant amount of weight, and then I leveled off at a certain point, and I leveled off largely because I started to feel just really afraid. I had a lot of fear at a
Mm.
certain point, and I know now what the root of that fear was, but I didn't know at the time. All I knew
What
was
was
that
it?
I was, it's like something. This is really scary. I don't want to get any smaller.
Mm.
And so anyway, I leveled out there for quite a while, and I stayed at that place for, well over a decade.
Mhm.
And then I had about a 5-year stretch where things started to change. So it was, COVID. We were in the middle of COVID.
Mhm.
My husband received his cancer diagnosis.
Oh.
And so we went through treatment. He went through a bone marrow transplant. He has multiple myeloma, which is a blood cancer.
Oh.
And then, so we got him through that. And then my brother-in-law ended up moving into our home. And then the day after he moved in, he ended up going into hospice care.
Oh my.
And yeah, and so for the last 6 months of his life, he
Mhm.
lived with us. I was his primary caretaker around the clock, 24/7. And that, especially the last couple of months, really took a lot out of me. If
Mhm.
anyone's ever cared for a hospice patient in their home,
Mm.
oh my goodness, you can't even begin to imagine how exhausting that is, both mentally and physically. And
Mhm.
so then after he passed away, my husband had his first relapse. And so,
Mm.
and during this whole time, I was working full time and I was going through menopause.
Oh
So
man. Oh my goodness. So weight loss was the furthest thing from your mind. Like
I was
this
in,
was like,
oh yeah, I
yeah,
was in survival mode
right.
for 5 years.
Right.
And then I had just gotten to the place where I, gained back about 40 pounds.
Mhm.
And I just remember thinking, okay, I've got to go in and see my doctor. I need a fresh set of labs. I got to find out where I'm at. And I was a type 2 diabetic. And so
Mm.
I'm like, I needed to find out what my current A1C, which I knew was not going to be good.
Mhm.
And so I went in and my A1C was 8.0, which, like, ugh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that's definitely higher than I wanted. And my doctor was fantastic. And she said, all of your other labs are good.
Mhm.
Let's fix this. And I
Mhm.
said, perfect. I'm ready. What do you recommend? And she said, would you be open to trying a GLP-1 medication? And I said, yes, absolutely, I would be. And so she, she said, I said, which one would you recommend? And she said, I really think given your health profile, I think you would do really well on Mounjaro.
Mhm.
And I said, perfect. Let's give it a try. And so anyway, I had her, order the Mounjaro, 2.5, of course, to start for the first month.
Mhm.
And so I had about 48 hours between the time that
Oh.
she placed the prescription and the time I picked it up.
Oh, that's quick. Mhm.
Yeah, and so being the good little academic that I am, I immediately started doing my research because I
Yeah.
knew I really wanted to understand these medications and what was going to be expected of me
Mhm.
going into it.
And
And
when was this? How long ago was this?
this would have been in April of 25.
And what was your starting weight for the GLP-1?
My starting weight, let's see, it would have been 275.
Okay. And tell
Yeah.
us your age and height just to
Okay,
all the
sure. I am
stats.
5'3" and I am 52.
Gotcha. Okay. So
Yep.
you
So
started doing the research on Mounjaro.
uh-huh, absolutely. So yeah, I'm doing the research on Mounjaro. And so anyway, I ended up finding this really wonderful book. And I ended up downloading it, listening to the audio version of it. And that truly became my GLP-1 Bible.
And
So, I
what
mean,
was that?
it is called The Ozempic Revolution by
Oh,
Alexandra Soa.
oh yeah.
Yes, yes,
Awesome.
she
Mhm.
is an obesity care physician. And that book helped me tremendously. So when I downloaded the audio version, I just started
Yeah.
listening to it and I just, kept going until I was through it.
Yeah, I have that book too. I've read it. We've interviewed Dr. Soa on our channel, The Downsized. You can go back and anyone can go back and watch that. And it's a really good reference book, right? It's got
Oh
so
yeah.
many good tips, I think, and
Oh
so
yeah.
many good systems to put in place.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And I felt, after getting through that, and I have since gone back and referenced it many, many
Yeah.
times, and I've recommended it many, many times.
Mhm.
But yeah, once I got through that, I had, my proteins and I had all my bottled water and everything. And I felt like I had a really good place to start from.
Mhm.
And so anyway, yeah, I went to CVS, picked up my first prescription, And I had watched a little YouTube video on how to do the injections and everything. And
Yeah.
I did that first one, and it was a couple of hours after I took that first shot that I remember just noticing it was really quiet. And I'm like, what on earth? And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is the food noise thing they were talking about. This is what everybody's talking about.
Within
And
hours.
we, yeah, within 3 hours of that first shot. And I
Wow.
remember just for the next couple of days, practically like walking into walls, I just couldn't believe how quiet it was with the absence of that constant food noise. It was
Mhm.
just truly incredible.
Mhm.
And I felt for the first time like I really truly had control over my food, and definitely over that piece of my brain
Yeah.
that was constantly telling me to eat something or to think about food, or just whatever. It was just that constant food noise that was gone. So
Awesome.
so anyway, yeah, that was in April of 25. Started
Mhm.
that, did my 4 doses at 2.5,
Mhm.
and messaged my doctor saying, yeah, let's. I think I want to try 5, and she said, great. So she put in the order for 5, and so yeah, that was fantastic. And
No
then
side effects or anything when you started?
I had some. I had some minor constipation,
Mhm.
but you figure that out. It's like
Yeah.
I need more fiber. Just walking more, and so yeah, that was really the only side effect that I had, and so that was a pretty manageable one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been doing my shots every week, and then I ended up having a very interesting experience then at the end of June last summer. So June of 25, I'd been on the medication for 3 months at that point.
Mhm.
And I went, sort of noticed a rash on my lower left abdomen. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Okay, so
Hmm.
whatever, it's a rash. I treated it like a rash. And then after a couple of days, I was not feeling good at all. And I remember just going, just feeling like I needed to lay down and take a nap.
Mhm.
And I am not a napper at all, but I
Mhm.
laid down, took a nap. When I woke up from that nap, I was drenched in sweat. I was
Mm.
shaking. And
Oh,
I
no.
instinctively reached down and I touched that rash. It
Mhm.
had spread and it was red hot. And I
Ooh,
said to my husband,
that's
I
not
have
good.
got to get to the emergency room. Something is seriously wrong.
Yeah.
So, went to the emergency room. I ended up having a major surgery. I was going septic.
Oh,
And
wow.
yes,
What
I ended
caused
up.
what caused that? Do you
It was an incredibly rare bacteria. Where I came in touch with it, I am not sure. I have one idea that I think is plausible,
Mhm.
but yeah, anyway, I ended up spending a week in the ICU, a
Oh
major
my gosh.
surgery, followed
Oh,
by
yeah.
3 months of wound care. Um,
Oh, wow.
the yeah, they had to remove basically it's like the surface area of a football from my lower left abdomen. And so, but this, I think one of the most incredible experiences I had while I was in the hospital. We're so fortunate where we live. We've got such fantastic healthcare. And so, anyways, my first day in the hospital, and I had, the chief of ICU medicine was there, and my surgeon was there, and they were doing the first dressing changes on my surgical wound.
Mhm.
And my surgeon asked, what's her A1C? And the nurse
Mhm.
said 5.7. And
Yay!
seriously, and I remember kind of like my hand coming up to my face, and I'm like, I probably didn't hear that right. But I remember my surgeon saying, okay, good. And then it was like a minute later, and I said to the nurse, I'm like, can you say my A1C again? I want to make sure I heard you right. And she said, yeah, it's 5.7. And again, I kind of like my hand goes up to my face and I kind of got that smile. And my surgeon said, he's like, is that good? He didn't know what it had been.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, in April it was 8.0. And that was like my first time, like, oh my goodness, that
Mhm.
medication combined with good nutrition and all these lifestyle changes that I have made in the last 3 months, it's just incredible. And so, that was a long 3-month recovery after that illness, wound care
Yeah, of
twice a
course.
week. I mean, it was pretty amazing. I had a
Well,
wound back.
I'm thinking you stopped the Mounjaro during this time, right?
Mm. Nope.
Mhm.
Yep,
Oh,
kept going with it.
okay.
I had asked about that and they're like,
Yeah,
nope, definitely keep going with it.
okay.
And yeah, I asked multiple doctors who were on my team, are you good with
You
this? And they're
sure?
like,
Yeah.
yes, we're good
Okay.
with this. So anyway, yeah, then yeah, it was quite an experience, but that medication, I firmly believe that the reason I had as complete and as quick a recovery as I did was
Mm.
because my A1C was so well controlled.
Hmm.
And I played by the rules. So anyway,
Yeah.
currently, yeah, my
Wow.
A1C is down to 5.0,
Oh, good.
and I'm down 65 pounds.
Oh, wow. So April to, where are we now? January.
January.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about this, before picture. When was that?
Okay, so the before picture, that was actually taken in 2009. That was before I had my gastric bypass surgery. I was at
Oh,
my highest weight in that picture.
what was your
And,
weight
I
there?
had about 20 some years where I didn't have any pictures taken, or those pictures have
Mhm.
at least been destroyed in that time period.
Yeah.
But when you guys had asked me for a picture, this was the one that I thought of, and I knew I still had this one.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
how much did you weigh here? Over
I was at
300,
my
I guess?
highest weight, which was 317.
Okay. Yeah.
And, that picture is, when I first saw it, because I hadn't seen this picture in almost a decade when I found it the other night.
Mhm.
And my husband had never seen me that heavy and everything. And,
Oh, wow.
it was, it's one of those things where you just had this conversation and he's like, tell me or tell her what you would want her to know now.
Oh.
And I said, wow. Okay. From the time that picture was taken, the next year was pretty miraculous for me because in the next year, I had my surgery. I
Mhm.
finished my doctorate. I got tenure at the college I was teaching at and
Wow.
still continue to teach at. And I met my husband. And,
Nice.
basically, it's like the difference between the girl in the first picture and the girl in the second picture is that
Mhm.
the girl in the second picture has had the opportunity and taken advantage of the opportunity to really take control of her health
Mhm.
and to make some really wise decisions along the way. Definitely to deal with, a lot of the psychological traumas that I'd had over the years
Mhm.
and, just somebody who, acknowledged that, she was absolutely worth the time and the effort to get to a healthier place.
Wow. Yeah, for sure. Well, so let's see. So how you you were 317 before the
Mhm.
gastric bypass, and
Mhm.
then before the Mounjaro, you were in the 280s, was it?
About 275. So yeah,
275?
I'd
Yeah.
lost quite a bit, and then it was during that 5-year really difficult stretch that I had
Yeah.
regained about 40 pounds in there.
Wow.
And yeah, that was not a fun time period
No,
for
for sure.
sure.
And then how much do you weigh today?
As of this morning, I am at 195.
195. Awesome. So
Yeah.
are you continuing? Where are you in your weight loss
Mhm.
journey at this
Yep.
point?
I plan to, continue this for a little bit yet. I see my doctor again in a couple of months. We're going to try and, come up with, ideas to where she thinks I should be long term.
Mhm.
But, I feel really good. I'm wearing the same size I was wearing in middle school, and I never thought
Yeah.
that would, that I would get to that place again.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but
what dose
I'm
are you
thinking for me, if I can lose another, 20, that would
okay.
put me in a really good place.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what she says.
Yeah. And what dose are you on now, Becky?
5 milligrams.
Oh,
I,
still on 5. Okay.
yep, I've stayed at 5 milligrams the whole time. And I've talked with my doctor a couple of times about bumping up to 7.5.
Uh-huh.
She's more concerned from a diabetic perspective that I would
Yeah.
start getting lows.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, with the increased medication, because right now
Mhm.
my A1C is so well controlled. My
Yeah.
glucose is really well controlled. I wear a continuous glucose monitor.
Okay.
And yeah, for anybody who's, diabetic or pre-diabetic, I cannot recommend those little devices, more than I possibly can. I mean,
Yeah.
it's truly a game changer in terms of finding out what works for you and what does not in terms of food.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been really successful on the Mounjaro. Like it's really managed your type 2 diabetes, it's managed your weight, and it's just kind of um, usually we hear from people on type 2 diabetes losing at a much slower rate. So congratulations on your success. That's awesome.
Thank you. And that was something that my doctor told me in that appointment last April. She said, for type 2s, what's probably going to happen is that you will see a change in your glucose almost immediately.
Uh-huh.
But weight loss can take a little longer
Yeah.
because the first thing that medication is going to do is going to fight to get your glucose under control.
Yeah.
And once that gets under control, you're going to start seeing weight loss. But, it can definitely be slower than for people who do not have type 2 diabetes.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, well, I mean, that's great that were able to control it with just a 5 milligram dose and you're able to just keep going. Did you calculate maybe your average weight loss per week just to give people an idea? Was it like a pound or two a week, maybe?
I would say, yeah, that
Mhm.
was pretty much it, and then you have some weeks where you don't lose anything, and then the next
Yeah.
week you drop 3 pounds. So
Yeah.
I tend to be fairly inconsistent that way. I'll level out and then I'll have a
Yeah.
3 pound drop. I'll level out and then I'll have a 3 pound drop. And
Yeah.
that's been my pattern my entire life. So that does not
Yeah.
surprise me at all.
Do you keep track of calories or protein or carbs or any of those things?
A protein mostly.
Mhm.
Protein, fiber, hydration, those are
Mhm.
my main things. My nutrition tends to be very much protein and plants is how I
Uh-huh.
describe it.
Uh-huh.
So very much a whole foods kind of thing where um, I love all kinds of proteins and chicken, fish, turkey, um, sometimes beef, pork,
Mhm.
not so much. Occasionally I will, but
Mhm.
I think too, since my surgery in 2009, pork is one of those meats that's a lot harder to digest for a lot of us who've had
Huh.
that.
Interesting. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think it's the fibrous texture of the meat. But
Hmm.
so anyway, yeah, definitely my proteins, and then mostly fruits, vegetables, legumes, and this time of year, I make a lot of soups and
Yeah.
stews and things like that. Yeah.
Now, do you have to take, supplements since you had the bariatric surgery? Are there supplements that you will
Mhm.
continue to take?
Yes, I take a multivitamin every day. I
Mhm,
take a calcium supplement every week, and
mhm.
then my calcium's actually really good, so I don't take it, daily, but
Okay.
once a week is just seems to be working just fine and keeping my numbers good. My
Mhm.
main thing is iron.
Hmm.
So I have had challenges with keeping my iron at a certain level. So I take two 65 milligram iron tablets every single day, and that seems to keep things level.
Seems to do it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but other than that, my labs have been really consistent.
that's great.
Mhm.
What are some of the go-to meals that you eat? Like, what do you eat for breakfast? What do you eat for lunch?
Sure. I typically start out my day with some type of protein.
Mhm.
So I do love, this is the other thing for me. I usually have a very hard time eating first thing in the morning,
Oh,
but I
okay.
want to get that protein in.
Mhm.
So I usually make myself a protein coffee.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I love my protein shakes, and then a cup of coffee, a bunch of ice, and that's usually the first thing that I do every morning to get things going.
Mhm.
But then during the day, I usually have well, I prep my meats over the weekend. So
Mhm.
I usually have a nice container of shredded chicken or shredded turkey, and then have that with, fruits, vegetables, and then pretty much the same thing for dinner. As far as snacks go, again, I've got my protein, my cheeses. I do love nuts and a good trail mix,
Mhm.
those types of things. But I don't feel as if I'm deprived on anything. I do avoid starches mostly because of my type 2. So,
Okay.
um, and trigger foods for me over the years have been the salty crunchy. So I'm not the sweets, but the salty crunchy.
So the chips and the things
Yep.
like that. Mhm.
Yep. So I have to be really cautious with
Do you
those
have those
kinds
in
of
the
things.
house or you just keep them out completely?
Nope, I do not have them in the house. And, I tell my husband if he would like to have some of those things, that's his choice, but they go right down to the basement to the man cave. So, so it's like, I don't even want to know they're in the house.
Yeah. Does he
Yeah.
eat what you eat, or is he on a special diet, or
It depends, I mean, he's definitely on, his own journey, his own experience.
Yeah.
And but yeah, a lot of the time, he'll definitely use the same proteins that I do and things like that.
Mhm.
But he does his thing based on what he needs. I do my thing based on what I need, and it works for us.
Yeah, awesome. That's great.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, let's see, do you, do any exercise?
Yes, I absolutely adore reformer Pilates. I go
Ah.
twice a week. I would go
Mhm.
6 times a week if I could. That resistance training has
Mhm,
been incredible for me. And I love lifting weights, all of that. And
mhm.
um, in the summertime, now granted, it's 4 degrees outside, 20 below with
Yeah,
the wind chill
winter.
today here in Michigan. So, yeah, I'm not in a big hurry to go outside and do anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the warmer months, I actually took up recumbent triking during
Oh,
COVID.
okay.
And so I will ride for, an hour pretty much every day in the summertime when it's not raining.
Mhm,
And this time of year, I have my different things that I do online. I've got a couple of, different YouTube fitness coaches that I follow, and I do a lot of that kind of thing here.
mhm.
And I do have a local gym that I also go to and try to get there at least a couple times a week. So, that I can lift there and then also, just get some cardio in.
Awesome. You mentioned YouTube. Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do, yes. I
What's the name
recently
of that?
started, it's called in Chrysalis. And so in Chrysalis, it's the transformational, phase of the butterfly. And
Mhm,
how I got that name was, when my husband and we were driving home one day. This was after, I'd been through everything I went through last summer. And he said, you've just changed. He said, you're so much more of yourself now that you've
mm,
been through this.
mm.
And I said, "Yeah, I feel like I've just been in Chrysalis for the last, 30 years." And he said, "There's the name of your channel."
That's a great analogy. That's a great
Yeah,
analogy.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so, yes, the content that I am creating is focusing on, the art and science of metabolic transformation. And so,
Mhm,
for those of us who are going through a weight loss, for people who are dealing with some of the, conditions that come from metabolic syndrome,
mm,
it's like I want to focus on those things. And
mhm,
so I'm building, a volume of videos for people with these different conditions. And I've just now started doing some interviews, and I've got several more lined up with different healthcare practitioners, different physicians, nurse practitioners, and other people with, true specialties in the area, so that we can focus on not only just the social day-to-day life for me as a communication professor, the
mhm.
interpersonal dynamics that we live with all the time, but then also to really focus on, the different medical aspects of metabolic syndrome and those of us who are fighting it and who will spend the rest of our lives fighting it in some capacity.
So the metabolic syndrome and the metabolic effects. Now, I'm familiar with type 2 diabetes. Tell us about maybe some of the other things that can go along
Oh,
with that.
sure, absolutely. So all types of heart disease,
Mm,
sleep apnea,
mhm,
PCOS, just a variety of different conditions that stem from obesity.
Yeah.
and other issues with weight and things that so many of us deal with in one capacity or another.
Yeah. I've heard a lot about inflammation being reduced with GLP-1s. When you had your surgery and your summer of
Chaos.
recovery, I'm wondering if you felt like that maybe helped you in some way, or I don't know if that would be possible to
Mm.
get a feel
You,
for, but
I am not sure. I know it didn't hurt. That's for
yeah,
sure. It definitely
yeah,
did not hurt. I don't know if
yeah.
that specifically, helped. It certainly helped with, me being able to control my glucose.
Mhm.
But where I have noticed the inflammation benefits, I have always had difficulty with my hips. And my knees
Oh,
are great, my
mhm.
shoulders are good, but my hips have always been a problem.
Hmm.
And again, it was within a couple of weeks of starting the Mounjaro, I did not have pain in my hips anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was so big because you don't want to get up and go for a walk when
Right.
you've got a bunch of pain in your hips.
Right.
And I was thinking about just how I used to take multiple just over the counter pain medications every day,
Yeah.
Tylenol and things like ibuprofen and stuff like
Sure.
that. I could count on one hand the number of those I've had to take since starting on the medication.
Wow.
So
That
yeah, it
really
was
makes a
very,
difference.
very dramatic how
Yeah.
quickly that changed.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Um, have you gone through your closet and,
Oh, oh yeah.
cleaned anything out?
Oh yeah, there is nothing left in my closet from my previous life.
Wow.
I when I first started on Mounjaro, I was wearing 22, 24,
Mhm.
and now I wear a 14, 16.
Wow.
And yeah, yeah. So basically, nothing that I was wearing at that point fits anymore. And yeah, so that was just one of those things where I said, you know what, I I've got to get it out of here.
Yeah.
And for
That's
me, in
great.
order to be able to keep looking forward, I don't
Mhm.
want to look backward every time I walk into my closet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I guess it's such a great feeling. I know for me it was a great feeling when I went from going to those plus size stores to now really any store that's
Yes,
available.
and
Yeah.
that part has not caught up with me yet.
Yeah.
I still immediately walk toward, the plus size section and,
Yeah.
really any store that I go into. And, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. No, I can go over here. I can look around here too. I'm going to find stuff over here.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's part of the fun side of this. We so often talk about, the hard work side of it. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely a piece of it. But then once you get to a certain place, there's that fun side of it too.
For
And
sure.
I always had this aesthetic in my mind that I was
Mhm.
drawn to in
Mhm.
terms of, clothing and things like that, that I just did not have the body to be able to wear.
Right.
And
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, oh man, that dress looks really great on a lot of
Yeah.
other people, but it would not work on me.
Yeah.
And now, that's not the case anymore. I'm able to start, wearing those types of things. And I'm looking forward to, getting into the warmer summer months where I'm really able to to tap into, those things that I'm really excited about.
That's great. Yeah, I guess you're kind of like, 'cause you still wanna lose, I think you said maybe 20 more pounds. So
Yeah,
I mean, you're not
that's how I'm
even
feeling.
like there, you're probably still a couple more sizes down to go. So,
Yeah.
yeah, don't
Yeah,
don't
that
don't spend all your money now, 'cause
yeah, well, that's the other thing too, is because I like clothes are expensive.
Yeah,
And so yeah, I've got this little capsule wardrobe right now that
yeah,
didn't break the bank, but I'm still considering it very much a transitional wardrobe.
yeah,
But yeah, I will, when I get to where I'm hoping to get to,
yeah.
then I'll be willing to make a bigger investment.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Christopher and I went to we bought some jeans from Goodwill and some other, thrift store type things, which
Yeah.
I was kind of amazed that I could, like, go in, pick up it, and wear like, I could never really shop in Goodwill because a lot of times they don't really have a lot of plus sizes, so,
Yes, exactly.
like, I guess a lot of people, gain weight and give their smaller sizes to Goodwill.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So
we've got a couple really nice thrift stores around here. We live very close to Ann Arbor,
mhm,
and there's one in particular that has usually got some really nice clothes in there for a very, very reasonable price. And so I've had some fun rummaging around in
yeah.
there a time or two already. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You kinda have to, be a digger and get into
That's
the
that's it with thrifting. You've got to dig, but when you find your place, you can really find some nice stuff.
yeah. Do you plan to be on these medication on Mounjaro long term? Do you see yourself ever coming off of it?
I plan to be on this for the rest of my natural life or the
Yeah,
next incarnation of it.
yeah,
Yeah, I know there are a lot of new medications in the pipeline, and right now the tirzepatide through Mounjaro, it's working very, very well for me,
mhm,
and so I'm planning on staying the course with this, unless my doctor thinks that
yeah,
something else would be even better for me.
yeah,
But yeah, this is this is going to be a thing for me for the rest of my life, and mostly for my type 2, I mean, it's
yeah,
well under control right now, but
mhm.
type 2, it's not one of those things that's going to go away. It's
You
there,
have it
it's well
you have it
controlled.
forever, right? Yeah,
Yep, it's
mhm,
well controlled,
yeah,
and that's where I want to be. That's where I want to stay.
awesome.
I've seen the dark side of that. My mom is an amputee from
Oh,
her
wow.
diabetes complications,
Mm,
and she's the most extraordinary lady, and she has just been thriving now in this new reality that she has, and she's been a true inspiration in that regard. But and then my maternal grandma or my paternal grandmother, so my dad's mom, um, she died from diabetes complications, and
oh,
so
wow,
I know that there's that dark side, and
yeah.
that is what I am fighting against.
Truly a genetic, uh,
Oh yeah.
history with your family,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm,
I knew that, and the thing is, my family tree on both sides, there's so many of us who have
yeah,
type 2. And the thing is, and we range in all, shapes and sizes and
mhm,
ages. And,
mm,
I knew that at some point it was going to find me. I wasn't thrilled when it did,
yeah.
but it was not a
Was
surprise.
not a surprise with all the family history, yeah.
Right.
Now is your mom on a Mounjaro or something like that too, or no?
No, she is not. She uses her insulin. She has the different medications that she takes, and she's 82 now, 81,
Mhm,
82,
mhm.
and so yeah, she hasn't tried GLP-1 at all, but her numbers are very well controlled at this point,
That's
and
good.
we're nice. I have three younger sisters, and we're very
Okay.
fortunate that our parents are still have both of our parents, and my mom, despite being in a power wheelchair, she's still sharp as a tack, and
That's
just an
great.
amazing lady. And
Yeah.
my dad has Alzheimer's,
Mm,
and that is a challenging disease. It is a
for
beast.
sure. Mhm.
And so, we're, as a family, we are just managing all the things that we need to manage.
Sounds like the things never end, right? You go from COVID to one thing to the next thing to just life, right? It's
That
just
that is
life.
life.
Mhm. For sure.
Absolutely.
Well, and I also wanted to talk back about touch back on your doctor. She sounds very supportive and very, helpful. Did she give you any, guidance along the way with the Mounjaro?
She and I had a very good conversation when she first prescribed the medication.
Mhm.
And, that was when, she told me, as a type 2 diabetic, you're not going to see, significant weight loss
Yeah,
immediately. It's going to, fight to get that glucose under control first.
yeah.
And, but yeah, she said, definitely got to get your protein in, you got to get your fiber in, you got to stay hydrated. Movement is important, particularly resistance training. And so we had that conversation up front, and then she put that in my appointment notes.
Mhm.
And then so, that information, and then also Alexander Soa's book,
Mhm.
so that really, that became the fundamental tenets upon which I've been living my life then since last
Yeah.
April.
It sounds like you've gotten some really good guidance. The Dr. So's book has been really helpful. Is there anything you would tell to somebody maybe who was looking to start a GLP-1 medication, maybe type 2 diabetes, but maybe not, maybe just
Mhm.
wanting to control their health? Is there any piece of advice that you would give them?
Absolutely. So, first thing I would tell somebody is make sure that you have a good medical team backing you up.
Mm,
Make sure that you are in regular contact with your prescribing physician. Make
mhm,
sure that you're staying on top of your labs, and also make sure that, I think one of my concerns is that I think there are far too many people who look at GLP-1 medications very flippantly.
mm,
And it's almost like, it's like, oh yeah, you just take the shot and that's that. And it's
mhm.
it's almost like, thinking about it as if like you're just taking an ibuprofen or a vitamin C tablet.
Yeah.
It's not. This is serious medication.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you need to go into it knowing that this is serious medication. It can do amazing things for you, but you have to respect it for what it is. And you
Yeah.
have to play by its rules.
That's a great point. I mean, these are prescription
Yes.
medications, you have to get them through a doctor, and, you need guidance with them, right? You need
Absolutely.
guidance. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you've got to be willing to make some changes, in terms of, are you getting enough protein? And protein is so important. You know that.
Yeah.
Protein and fiber are so important. Staying
Yeah.
hydrated is so important.
Yeah.
And I think the one other thing that I would encourage people to do, because
Mhm.
when I started on the Mounjaro in April of 25, the other thing that I knew I needed to do for me
Mhm.
was I needed to slay some demons.
Oh.
And I found myself a really good psychologist.
Oh, that's great.
And
That's great.
she has been an absolute godsend for me. And she has helped me work through, so many of the challenges that I had had. I mean, I have the disease of obesity.
Right.
So there's that physiological, it's just there. But as you go through life, we all have our traumas and we have our really difficult experiences. And in my case, some of those acted as, the way I describe it is they were like psychological accelerants to a
Mm.
physiological problem.
Interesting. Mhm.
And so I really took that piece seriously. Like let's figure out some of these challenges, some of these, psychological roadblocks that I've had for forever.
Hmm.
And so that's another thing I would strongly encourage people to consider that. And for me, that's been a really important piece of the puzzle. And I'm so glad that I've taken advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of the doctors that we've interviewed on the downsized, that mental health piece is so important. And there's just, we have all these diet traumas, right? All these weight related traumas
I
that we
I
touch
truly
back
don't
to
know
all the
how you
time.
can be a Gen X or millennial woman and not have some type of PTSD from diet culture.
I mean, everything from Snackwell's cookies to the Special K diet to,
Oh,
Kate
yeah.
Moss and all the super skinny people in the
All the
90s.
90s,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's just, like,
Mhm.
on the surface of my mind right there,
Oh,
that's not
yeah, I know,
even
that's like
digging
that's
deep.
that's just at the surface level,
Yeah,
my goodness, and the thing
yeah,
is, it was constant. Like, we were constantly inundated with it, and we could never get away from it, and there's
mm-mm,
that constant reminder that there is something wrong with you. Well, odds are, for the overwhelming majority of us, it it wasn't anywhere near what was presented to us, but when it's there all the time, it it
Yeah.
it impacts your life and impacts your thinking for sure.
It really does, and, it gets into, like, how you live your life and how you carry yourself and how you
Yes.
interact with other people, and it's you don't even I don't even think I realized, how much it impacted me until now.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
so, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm so blessed to do what I do for a living. I work with college students day in and day out, and I have for the
Mhm.
last 30 years. And so most of my students are between the ages of 18 and 23.
Mhm.
And, they're at that point where they're going from being kids to being adults.
Right.
And, they are such amazing young people. And, they have so many dreams and goals and ambitions for themselves. And one of the things that I have noticed with them is that they don't talk about each other's bodies. They don't
Right.
reference things the way that we did and the way that,
Yeah.
we had directed at us when we were that age.
Yeah.
And I've had this conversation several times recently with my colleagues, and, we're like, that's a good thing.
Yes.
That is, and I hope that,
Yeah.
that pays dividends for them so that they don't have to deal with a lot of the stuff that we've had to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it's that whole body positivity movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of people like Lizzo or like, even people living in bigger bodies and, that's
Yeah.
become more of a not such a big deal, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
when we were in the '80s, you didn't see I remember, people talking about Ann and Nancy Wilson from Heart, "Oh, they're so heavy," and they were
Oh,
they were just normal sized,
yeah,
right?
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. I
yeah,
know, absolutely, and I remember, so often when I was a kid, hearing, "Oh my goodness, she wears a size 12, can you believe that?"
yeah,
And I'm like, "My goodness, a size 12? Are you kidding me?" That
yeah,
but yet, because what we had presented to us in the
yeah,
media was, like the size 2, size 4 was
0,
normal.
yeah,
This is what you're supposed to strive toward.
yeah,
Well, I mean, come on,
yeah,
that's absurd,
not
and now I think we realize that that is absurd.
Yeah, well, and we also know now that obesity is a disease, right? It wasn't a lack of willpower, it wasn't a
Right.
lack of trying on our part. We were always trying all the things. It just,
Oh,
we were
yeah, absolutely.
battling our mind telling us to eat all the time. So,
Absolutely, and, one of the things that, I have definitely noticed now, another thing about me is that I've spent my entire life being terribly iatrophobic, so fear of doctors, fear of
oh,
hospitals,
really?
medical procedures, yes.
Oh,
And that has been a challenge for me my entire life.
hmm.
And I had a really awful experience with a doctor when I was 20.
Oh,
And actually, I have a video on this on my channel where I talk about, that whole thing.
hmm.
And since being in the hospital this last summer, where I was in there for 6 days, I have seen a change in how many younger physicians and PAs and NPs talk about weight. And I think many of them are starting to notice, or at least they're being trained perhaps differently,
Hmm.
and seeing obesity as a disease as opposed to a character flaw.
Ah, that's awesome.
And I hope that my experience is becoming more universal because
Yeah.
I have definitely noticed a difference in the practitioners that I've experienced in the last few years.
I mean, that's great news, I don't know how many doctors I've been through that told me, "Oh, you just need to exercise more. Oh, maybe go back to Weight Watchers."
Yep.
But to hear that, younger doctors coming up are aware of this, disease of obesity and aware of the treatments for it, and
Mhm. Yep, and
that's
I can't
amazing.
say that universally, but I can definitely, speak to my own experience that
Yeah,
I have personally seen a difference.
that's great. That's amazing. That's, hope for the future, right?
Fingers crossed, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well,
Absolutely.
Becky, anything else you wanna get in before we wrap this up today?
Well, I just thank you for the opportunity, and thank you and Christopher for the work that you are doing in this space. I
Thank
think,
you.
there's so much noise out there and so much
For sure.
misinformation. And, it's part of the reason why I've started my channel as well. It's because, we need people who are going to give us, quality, reasoned information in a professional way.
Absolutely.
And I think we need more people in this space. And so anyway, thank you for that opportunity. And I would absolutely welcome anyone to join me on in Chrysalis on YouTube. And
Absolutely.
as I build out that volume of work, I would love to have anyone who would like to join along for the ride.
Yeah, absolutely. Go to Becky's channel in
In
Chrysalis.
Chrysalis.
In Chrysalis,
Yes.
on YouTube. Are you on any other platforms? Any TikTok or?
As of right now, I'm
Hmm.
just on YouTube, but I will be expanding that.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So go ahead and like and subscribe to the Downsized, and then you can go like and subscribe to Becky's channel as well. Thank you, Becky, for joining us
Thank
here
you.
today, and thanks everyone out there for watching. For more information, you can go to our website at thedownsized.org. We have an Amazon store. We have links to our Downsized cruise and lots of good information there for you to check out. So thank you very much for watching today. And my name is Laraine Durham for The Downsized. Thanks, Becky. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Bye-bye.